Social media hasn't garnered a positive reputation, and TikTok has faced its own slew of controversies, from the harm caused to minors doing dangerous challenges to suspicion around the Chinese government's access to our data. TikTok has faced potential bans. But what of the effect on bookworms and the publishing industry as a whole? For my part, my experience of BookTok has been a positive one. From the chance to connect with like-minded people to the overall encouragement to read, it can be beneficial, though the app has its downsides. From limiting what people are reading to encouraging bad habits, there are at least 5 reasons BookTok is bad for bookworms. Some of the problems are worse on TikTok, but many are also indicative of social media's problems as a whole, with TikTok simply exacerbating an already prevalent problem. The first problem is that the reading selection is limited. BookTok has helped me to find books I wouldn't have otherwise, and can be a good launching point for anyone, but there is a catch. The biggest issue I've seen with BookTok is that it recommends the same books repeatedly, rather than a wider variety. While I still stumble across the odd video showcasing something I've never heard of, 90% of the time, it's another video on ACOTAR or Fourth Wing. Now, don't get me wrong. I love ACOTAR, and I love hearing people talk about it. But unless you're brand new to BookTok, another rave review about ACOTAR isn't going to help you discover anything new. After the 5th rant about why Tamlin is an asshole, it would be nice to see something different. Also, I get it. Fourth Wing might be exciting, but surely people are reading other books. The community is to blame as much as anything. And I'll be honest, when I finally read Fourth Wing, I'll probably want to talk about it too. There's nothing wrong with loving something. And sharing your passion with someone else doesn't make you a sheep. Nevertheless, more people, especially those with bigger platforms, could and should discuss other books as well. Plenty of bookworms do read other books, and whether they're just too small because they won't talk about the mainstream titles, or too big because they refuse to talk about anything else, the selection can come across as narrow. It does a disservice to writers too, because if you're not Sarah J. Maas or Colleen Hoover, nobody seems to want to read your book. And if they do, the video they post discussing it won't gain traction, because your book isn't trendy to begin with, because TikTok won't let people gain traction talking about it, and so no one sees it, and you see the problem. If enough people talk about something, that topic becomes popular. And if more people were willing to read books that they weren't spoon-fed, we could have a wider variety of recommendations overall. Because as it stands, it seems like you're uncool if you aren't obsessed with ACOTAR. This is to say nothing of the limits placed on genre. If a book isn't a fantasy, a romance, a YA, or some combination of the 3, it's going to be an uphill battle to find someone that's interested. Worse, even within those categories, the stories are becoming increasingly reliant on tropes, with books being sold on the similarities they share with previous titles, rather than their own merits. YouTubers are also becoming increasingly reliant on asking for subscribers, but if you're enjoying this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. Second, like Twitter, TikTok seems to have a drama problem. Although I still consider Twitter the worst offender, TikTok can get ugly. I haven't seen the worst of the drama firsthand, but I've certainly heard about it. Several BookTokers I follow have noted that the community has become toxic for them, and have urged people to be kind, something nobody should have to tell you after the age of 7. Some of the so-called controversies are harmful as hell, while others are laughably pathetic. The supposed Zach controversy falls into the latter camp. Now, for those not familiar with the drama, I'll keep it brief. A good-looking man started reading books and found success. That's it. He happened to be attractive, he wanted to give reading a go, and through no fault of his own, a bunch of women followed him. What followed was a series of debates. I stumbled on his page and I followed him because honestly, I thought he had a good vibe. I like somebody who exudes positive energy, and while some pointed out that he could have described the books he was reading better or gone into greater depth in his videos, he was new. He wasn't researching how to be a master book reviewer. He was trying out a new hobby and got slammed with hate comments because a bunch of people were jealous of his growth. Now, sometimes valid discussions rise from these controversies. When a woman has to work 10 years to reach the same point a man can in 10 days because he's a man, that can rub people the wrong way. But blaming him for how society is rigged isn't the answer. And too many people, instead of beginning a constructive conversation, go on the offensive. As I said, I haven't encountered any drama personally. I haven't received any hateful comments, had my video spammed to the point of being taken down, or had my life threatened because I disagreed with someone on who my book boyfriends are. At the same time, if this many people have expressed concerns or shared their own negative experiences on the platform, there must be a problem. Worse, the drama can leak into the real world, as Book Bonanza was apparently a gong show, reminiscent of my high school's disastrous winter formal. In other words, a large group of people started acting like ninth graders, doing everything from shoving people to stealing books. I don't like to dwell on the negative, which is probably why I've remained on the so-called right side of BookTok. But it's worth considering if you're looking for positive vibes as a bookworm. The third problem is the push to buy books. I can't blame TikTok completely for this one. After all, it's my money and I have a history of spending too much on books. Before I knew TikTok existed, I'd spent $100+ on books, either using the scant money I was earning from a part-time job or relying on Christmas money. I could feel the disapproval radiating off my parents when I bought $50 worth of books at Value Village, despite them not batting an eye when I spent $80 on a single video game, because I have a bit of a book hoarding habit. TikTok didn't create that problem for me, but it did exacerbate it. I don't regret the books I've bought, and it doesn't help that I read so fast, but I do want to rein myself in. I have dozens of series I haven't read, and that doesn't include the standalones I've accrued over the years or the other purchases I'm certain to make. The truth is that BookTok encourages spending, and I'm as guilty as anyone. I love watching and making book haul videos, whether the books are brand new or used. And even with my being a cheap ass, the sheer amount of books I've bought has led to me easily spending $100 on a given month. Some people buy because they see others buying. When your feed is inundated with people rushing to Barnes and Nobles or showing off their 3 shopping bags worth of books, it's hard not to get the itch. Seeing the shit-eating grins on your favorite BookTokers' faces, even the sheepish ones tinged with guilt, your own desire for a shopping high gets triggered. Then there are those of us who want to make our own book haul videos, forgetting that the people we're competing with are often getting mail sent to them by fans or publishers, which brings their own bills down. I'll always enjoy a good book haul, but other creators have moved towards doing library book hauls. unhauls of the books they're getting rid of, and so on, so as to keep making fun content without whipping out the credit card. Fourthly, a problem all its own, book FOMO is like any FOMO. It's irritating, uncomfortable, and it makes us feel silly when we give into it. If you're not sure what FOMO is, it stands for fear of missing out. Most people talk about FOMO in relation to trips or food. If you see a favored travel vlogger visit Paris, you might feel bad because you haven't been to Paris yet. And if a coworker brings donuts to the office, food FOMO might cause you to ignore your diet. Well, book FOMO isn't something I've seen discussed as much. It's definitely something I felt. And while there have always been books I wanted to read, I never experienced that special, desperate FOMO feeling until I started immersing myself in BookTok. One of the effects of FOMO brings me back to my last point. If you see a bunch of people reading the same book, your desire to be a part of that will compel you to go out and purchase the book. The FOMO people had over Fourth Wing was so extreme that the books were literally sold out across platforms. If you thought it was hard to find toilet paper during the pandemic, buying Fourth Wing was its own challenge. FOMO can also work against your ability to think for yourself. There's nothing wrong with enjoying the same interests as everyone else. I'm not some edgelord who's going to condemn you as a member of the sheeple because you caved in and bought Fourth Wing. But you should still be finding books on your own as well. Whether that's by reading the blurbs in a bookstore or by doing independent research, FOMO shouldn't be our sole reason for purchasing a $40 plus book. Finally, there's cancel culture. Now we come to the ugly stuff. I've already covered drama, which in itself can be toxic, but cancel culture takes the vitriol to a new level, especially when you consider how subjective opinions are and how easy it is to misinterpret something someone has said. If a controversial comment is typed out, that's even worse, because studies have revealed that most of our understanding of what a person says comes from their tone of voice and their delivery, meaning that we're missing a shit ton of context. Speaking of context, controversial tweets or essays often are taken out of context. The comments of another party who pushed the so-called bad guy to speak in the first place are often deleted. The actual lived experience of the speaker is usually unknown to those parsing through their words, and the difference between what a person literally said versus what people think they said can be vast. When it comes to controversies, it's like a game of telephone, only with death threats and cyberbullying thrown into the mix. In school, we used to giggle over how twisted the original message had become. But telephone was a very good lesson in how quickly a statement can become warped. Also, nobody threatened to dox you if your original statement got changed to something inappropriate. Sometimes a kid would change the message slightly on purpose to make it more exciting, and some media outlets do this by only publishing a portion of the original statement, removing any surrounding context and counting on the numerous ways people will misinterpret the limited commentary they've been given. If an actor says they found another actor hard to work with, but added that they were best friends, an amoral journalist will come along, remove the part where the two actors are best friends, and before long, the first actor will be labeled as an avowed hater of the second. Worse, they'll need to hire armed security around their home after receiving hundreds of death threats. It shouldn't need to be said, but death threats are never okay.